お前はもう死んでいる。何？
After such a strong string of episodes, it was inevitable that we'd be hit by a real stinker eventually, and wow does this one really stink. I almost didn't want to cover it because there's almost nothing special to talk about, but at the same time, I feel like it's important to cover episodes like these since they do provide interesting context for future episodes, and it's nice to look at why episodes aren't necessarily the best at all times. We don't typically touch on writers in these videos, but it's probably worth mentioning the episode was written by Ayumu Hisao, who's never written for Dragon Ball before, and I feel like it really shows. In my staff list coverage last month, I mentioned that they seem to only have a few years of professional writing experience under their belts, so I guess that does say a lot. I'm not entirely sure how they wound up on Super, but I can't say I'm massively excited to see them return. Super's writers are often regulars and on rotations, much like the animation staff. They typically know each other and attend regular writers' meetings with the series director to ensure everyone's on the same page. When someone outside of those regulars pops up, their approach often doesn't gel particularly well, and I think that's ultimately what's happened here. It's not a great script in the first place, but it kind of feels incongruous with the previous episodes, especially considering we just lost Universe 6. This arc is episodic enough as it is, but this one really takes the cake. This episode had 4 animation supervisors, 3 external studios on the second key animation side of things, and a mix of internal and external on the regular key animation side. With staff lists like these, it's very clear that it's an episode put together in a short amount of time. It's not one that the series directors are really putting emphasis on. It's not filler, but it's not of any real importance. Tsutomu Ono and Noburusa Sawaki are from the same external studio, while Yasuhiro Namatame is from Toei. The last one, Naoki Yamauchi, is a total newcomer to Dragon Ball and appears to be a freelancer. Stylistically, a staff list like this would usually result in a real mishmash of styles, but the chief animation supervisor, Takeo Ide, has redrawn the vast majority of the episode. His work on the past few episodes has been quite light, so it's nice to see the results of his hard work here. A lot of the uncorrected shots are pretty questionable, so it's probably safe to say he really saved and elevated this episode above what the primary supervisors could achieve. Ide is so on point in this arc, and I really couldn't be happier. This episode really is episode of Ide, so if you are looking to learn his style, this one's definitely a good place to start. Whether it be super manly Goku, Gohan actually looking his age, or the really demonic Piccolo shots, it's hard to really fault Ide's work here. Outside of that work, there are a number of contributions that seem to stick quite close to the model sheets, albeit with slightly Z-esque features. I don't even know where to begin in identifying who drew them, but they were nice enough that it'd feel pretty wrong not to mention them. As far as animation goes, much of the animation is packed with pretty poor looped frame sequences, which are far and away my biggest pet peeve. I'm totally fine with limited animation. You almost have to be if you're a Dragon Ball fan, but if you're going to do it, at least do it well. Don't make it stiff, don't use awkward poses. Show a little finesse so that it feels like a fight and not just striking poses at one another. Unfortunately, on the whole, that's not the case. When you have the likes of Yukihiro Kitano on board, I suppose it's also to be expected. I think what solidifies this as a rushed or intentionally limited episode is Atsushi Nikaido and Kenji Miyuma's presence. They're two of Super's best animators and have produced some absolutely stunning scenes in the past, but their work here is uncharacteristically limited and bland. Miyuma's work opens the episode with Vegeta's final flash and the beam struggle. As always, his effects work is great, so at the very least the shapes of the beams look wonderful, but on the whole, it lacks the fluid motion we'd typically expect from Miyuma. The character art was pretty unique, so I do wonder if that's what he looks like uncorrected. Nikaido's work is a little more dynamic. He animates the part where Piccolo starts dodging attacks and backflipping out of the way. It's super short-lived, but it's definitely the nicest bit of actual motion in this episode. It's a little disappointing that this is about the extent of their contributions here, but as I said, I hope it's a calculated move by the production managers to help elevate this episode just a little without actually compromising their time allocations for the upcoming episodes that should really count. The fact that Higashide isn't here and Chu's posting about working on episode 122 right now is definitely giving me an optimistic outlook on things. The director of this episode is Toshiaki Komura, who we last saw back on episode 111, another episode that I really didn't enjoy. I don't really understand what's going on with him. He's a competent member of Toei. His episodes on other shows are strong, but he's so far not delivered on Super. Putting aside the iffy script here, the overall tone just feels really off. Nothing's landing as it should, and obviously that all comes down to the director. Understandably, he's been on 2 clearly B-tier episodes so far, but other directors have been put in similar positions and done a far better job. It's a shame really, because I thoroughly enjoyed his storyboard, and typically directors do a good job of handling their own boards. From the interesting angles, intense close-ups, unique split screens and so on and so forth, there's a lot here to love. But the execution just isn't here. I think that's a large part of why everyone's finding this episode so flat. Like I said, nothing's landing as it should. I think that ultimately sums up this episode. It's 20 minutes of missed opportunities. It's not an outright bad episode, we haven't been transported back to Super's Resurrection F arc, but it is criminally boring, and it's sad to see a critical member of Universe 7 ring out with very little fanfare, especially after last week. On the plus side, next week's looking to be pretty great, putting aside that Masahiro Shimanuki's a great supervisor and Wonpac have some pretty talented staff. My predictions regarding Kenotsuka and the mech universe have come true. He tweeted last night that he'll be participating in the episode. I'm sure everyone knows at this point, but Kenotsuka is a mecha legend in the industry, and while I'm not sure he'll blow our minds considering Super's schedule and the fact he was only on an episode a few weeks ago, I think he'll at least give us something pretty tasty. But that's about it for this week. Our streak of great episodes was broken, but I do think next week will mark the start of a strong batch for the month. Totally normal as far as long-running shows go, nothing to get too hung up on, even if this was a huge letdown, like I said. Before we go, I do want to shout out my community rewatch of Dragon Ball Z that started today. Across Reddit and Kanzenshu, we're watching 5 episodes of DBZ a week, starting from episode 1 right through to 291, skipping absolutely nothing. It's an opportunity to relive the series, take our time, and hopefully learn something new along the way. My knowledge of Z's stuff isn't quite as good as my Super stuff, so it's mostly an opportunity for me to really pick apart the series animation as I go along. If you'd like to get involved, there are links in the description, so feel free to check that out. But with that said, be sure to rate the video and let me know whether 119 was also a letdown for you too. I put out a video on Dragon Ball Z's deteriorating sound quality just yesterday, and if I may say so, I'm really proud of it, so if that's your thing, please do consider checking that out. As always, subscribe if you're new, if you're looking for more animation breakdowns, behind the scenes content and what have you. Do so please, that would be great, and I will see you next time.